when you see the speculative manipulation start to come in, that's when you know that something has become corrupted, and like maybe it's heading into some sort of like a bubble territory or something, because it ceases to be about the actual value created and starts to be about the financial manipulation. And so I had a question for you guys about metrics. And, I hear so often, what you can measure, you can improve, right? Like that's something that we hear a lot. And so in Better Capitalism, you kind of make the point that our sole metric, maybe in the neoliberal era, has become shareholder value and, the primacy of capacity to generate dollars, like basically an economic, but like a purely financial kind of an economic way of measuring success. How do you think, in a nutshell, could I get you guys to frame how this measurement has channeled and structured the way we organize society, so our economic activity?
It's not just a metric, Terrie. It's become the driver, right? It is a measure which now morphed into the head of the spear or the point of the spear. It is then, to our society, it has changed us from a market or a capitalist economy to a capitalist society, where everything now has a dollar value. Every interaction has some dollar value placed on it. I generalize, a little bit, but not much. It seems as though you almost can't do somebody a favor without them. Okay, well, let me pay for that, or they can't accept that we are humans interacting with each other, and it doesn't have to be every measure of what we do is based on the economic value or a dollar value. It's my way of seeing it from that question. Do you have another thought or additional thought here?
Well, maybe I could just ask you to go into a little bit more detail. I don't know. I didn't want to interrupt you, but how historically did that come to be? Like, where did that come from? I mean, I know I listened to a YouTube interview where I felt like you did a little bit of the history of that, Paul, but this is the water that we now swim in, but things were not always thus. So how did that come about?
From my perspective, it's this September 1970 Milton Friedman New York Times article where he lays out his ethic. It's just simply his ethic, which was sort of more bald assertion than some bullying, that said this is what the purpose of capitalism and corporations more specifically is to maximize shareholder value. I think we can draw a bright line right there in a lot of different ways. Up till that point, for example, General Motors was considering board members which had things about community concern and environmental economics. This was in the late 1960s, and they shut those things down just because of basically the bullying, I think, approach that Milton Friedman took in order to get his position across. We are not like all anti-Milton Friedman, right? The man's got lots going on for him, but it's just this narrow issue that we pick with this because it's got such a Molotov cocktail effect on the rest of the country. It just exploded from that point. So I think that's a critical shift for our economics and our psyche in the United States, is that we all grabbed a hold of that one man's narrow ethic in this one condition, and we let it roll out.
Right, and the title of that article, I think, is the social responsibility of business is to increase profit. I think that's the headline title of the article, and that pretty well sums it up. So to the earlier point, maybe you didn't even read the whole article, but you got the bumper sticker, you got the headline, and it took, it really took. And Terrie, to your question about how does it show up, I mean, one of the ways it happens is the notion of an externality, that in a corporation, we can basically just not count as a cost something that we don't want to count as a cost. If our metric is increasing, bottom line on a profit and loss statement, and all these chemicals that we would need to pay to dispose of are expensive, well, then we just dump them outside somewhere, and hey, it didn't hurt our metric. It was damaging to everybody in the area, but it didn't count. And so that's, just one example of not counting, and therefore facilitating unhelpful tendencies and even destructive behavior, because hey, it didn't show up on the one metric that everybody's looking at.